Right, I think we'll kick off rather than spending any more time waiting. Others may all join us during the webinar, but let's start on time. Good afternoon. My name is Phil Archer. I'm from W3C. My role today is purely to introduce speakers as each one takes their turn, and also to collect questions. You'll see that there is an option for you to post questions. You can do that at any time. They're only seen by myself and the other organizers and not seen by the people, and we'll be collecting those questions and obviously having a session at the end of the webinar when people will be able to answer them. Very grateful to you for joining today. As you can see, this is a joint webinar between the BigDataEurope project that I'm involved with and the Big Data Value Association. Very pleased to have Anna, the Secretary General of BDE-BDVA with us, as well as Arne-Jørgen, who leads Task Force 6 on standardization, subject obviously close to my own heart. But if we have the BDVA and we have BDE, then we should immediately hand over to the Project Officer at the European Commission, who is most closely responsible for all this. That's Kimmo Rossi. So Kimmo, I'm going to hand over to you now, and please introduce yourself and all these projects from the European Commission point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. So my name is Kimmo Rossi. I work at the European Commission at DG Connect in a unit which is called Data Policy and Innovation. So why am I here? Well, Phil already mentioned it, that I'm the project officer of the Big Data Europe project, sorry. And I'm also looking after the public-private partnership in big data value, so the BDVA. So I try to confuse as little as possible with these all different project names and acronyms, and I try to use the full versions of the name rather than the acronyms. So let me first start by giving in a few words the overall purpose of all these activities in big data, what we want to achieve. It's actually what the European Union member states have stated as their desire, and that the Commission is implementing, and that is to gain leadership for the European big data industry, help the European industry to be the world leaders and to maintain that position. And also, and this is very much of the political agenda now, you will see it in the media, to achieve a sort of industrial transformation of the key industry sectors by digitizing the industries. And more particularly, what we are trying to achieve is the data dimension of this digitalization of the industry. Not only the industry, but also digitalization of the whole society. So the various societal sectors like healthcare. Finally, the ultimate goal of all this is to create a data economy. It's an economy where data is moving and is traded and changes hands the same way as goods and services are in the current web economy. We are not there yet, so there are many obstacles for this data economy to happen, so we still have some miles to go. For that we need to create a data market for the first thing, and for that we need tools, we need architectures, we need data trading and sharing platforms, data processing platforms. Now to structure all this, we have created a partnership with the European industry and research. And the partnership is called the famous PPP, Public-Private Partnership, Big Data Value. It's a partnership between the European Commission and the private side. The private side is represented by an association, and the association is called Big Data Value Association. So that's where this BDVA acronym comes from. BDVA is on its turn, it's representing about 170 European companies and research organizations. Ana García will, after me, tell you all about this and more precisely about the BPP and the BDVA. Then there is the project, BigDataEurope, which is the project organizing this webinar. Why did we at the Commission decide to create this kind of project and to put up a call for proposals for this type of project? It is because we recognized that there is a need to transfer technology to various societal challenges, and especially the 7 societal challenges that are individual pillars, societal pillars in the Horizon 2020 program. For example, energy is one of these societal challenges. It's the societal challenge number 3. The data challenge in energy stems from the fact that there is more and more larger amounts of larger data sets generated in energy grids at the generation and consumption sites, and this huge amount of data would help to manage the energy grid, to save energy, if only we were able to handle and process and analyze these huge amounts of data. Since we cannot, we are wasting energy, we are wasting opportunities to serve the consumers. The same in healthcare, there's a huge amount of diagnostic and patient data. That's another societal challenge. Then evidence-based policy making. So having our politicians make good decisions based on all the available information is also a big data challenge that we want to tackle in the 6th societal challenge. So the BigDataEurope project was conceived to respond to these challenges, to make big data technologies, analytics technologies available to these societal challenges, for them to process their data, solve their problems, and make better decisions, whether it's about waste management in cities or whether it's about better diagnosis for cancer patients. So this was a short introduction, and I want to end it here because I give the floor then to those that are presenting the project and the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kimmo. Again, just a reminder for everybody, especially if you just joined us, do please put any questions that you may have for any of the speakers, including Kimmo Rossi, who you just heard, into the question box, and we'll put all those at the end of the webinar. I'd like now to hand over to Ana García Robles, who is Secretary General of the Big Data Value Association, and Ana is going to be telling us about their version of the vision for the future of big data in Europe. We're looking for that common vision between the BDVA and BDE. Ana, over to you.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you also to the whole Big Data Europe project for inviting me to this webinar. And hello, good afternoon to everyone. I don't need to introduce myself anymore. I'm gonna present the Big Data Value Association and provide a bit more information, extending the information that Kimmo Rossi already provided in relation to the Big Data Value PPP. Also, for those ones of you active in social media and Twitter, you can see in the screen our Twitter account, and feel free to follow us and to send us comments and questions and whatever you think is important for you. I will start giving a bit more information about the Big Data Value PPP. Already Kimmo introduced that very well, so I won't extend this very much. But just to remark that the European Commission, industry and research joined forces to create this innovation ecosystem to create value out of big data. So as Kimmo said, to really support the European industry and society as a whole. So there was a contractual public-private partnership signed at the end of 2014. So there is a contract between the European Commission and the private side, represented by the Big Data Value Association, where we define objectives and general terms, but also very detailed terms, KPIs, and also the different commitments from both sides. The way this has been operationalized, and I will show later on how the whole thing works, is through the Horizon 2020, through different calls in the work program. And there is a little typo here because this is work program 2016-2017. So there were already 2 years of call for proposals linked to a Big Data Value PPP, and the second one finished a couple of days back. And there will be new calls issued in the work program 2018-2020, and this will be issued by the European Commission during this autumn. So we also give you a heads up that there will be events in November, both the ICT Proposals Day organized by the European Commission, and then the EDF, European Data Forum, and Big Data Value Association Summit, that this year join forces together and will organize the event in Paris, in Versailles, also in November 20th to the 22nd. So if you are interested in a follow-up, you can also already block your calendar with these dates. So objectives of this PPP, again, is a repetition, but very concretely, we want to create value out of data. We want to boost the European big data research and innovation community, and more importantly, the outcome of all this should be to strengthen competitiveness and ensuring the industrial leadership. To do this, we collaborate with the European Commission from the Big Data Value Association to try to define a program that create impact. We also define instruments that in the most efficient way help to experiment with data, giving access to data innovation spaces for cross-sectorial data experimentation. We really believe that through large-scale demonstrators in big data, we can also help many different industrial sectors to really prove the value of big data. And of course, we want to keep developing research, industry-driven research to support this innovation. Then, in this world of acronyms of Kimmo Rossi was mentioning, we need to clarify a bit what is this big data value PPP, what is this ecosystem or the core of this ecosystem. So very quickly, we have the European Commission as one of the main players in this partnership, and in the bottom part we have the whole private side represented mainly by European industry and research, and the European industry, both the technological part, but all the industry representing the different sectors. Of course, there are also other players. And here we have the association that I will introduce with a bit more details in a moment, that has the contract with the European Commission, and of course has many different members. I will show also that information now. And we collaborate very closely with the European Commission, producing our input that is reflected somehow in the work program, in the Horizon 2020 work program, in the way of calls, as I explained before. And then through those calls, different projects are selected based on excellence and following the Horizon 2020 normal rules. And those projects become part of this PPP, contributing to the implementation of the part of this big data value PPP. Among these projects, we have the Big Data Value Ecosystem project, that is the coordinating and support action, supporting the whole PPP implementation, but also supporting very much the implementation of the mission of the Big Data Value Association, supporting to develop the ecosystem, and supporting the collaboration between the association and the projects, as together we have a common objective of developing this ecosystem, tools, etc. Then for the vision, I will show later on a document that all of you should read. That is our strategic research and innovation agenda, where all this, this vision is well defined. But the vision includes many different dimensions of the data. So not only the data itself and the amount, variety and velocity and all these kind of things, but also the importance in skills, the importance of working in privacy, security, the legal frameworks to overcome barriers in the data economy, the importance of really the technology, of course, at the core of this transformation, and this is one of the areas where BigDataEurope, we think there is a strong contribution from BigDataEurope, working in the different sectors, working also with the new business models that are arising as part of this new digital data-driven economy, and the societal aspects that definitely are very important for us as well. And then going to the association. So the association is an international non-profit association, industry-driven, and we are based in Belgium. So we operate and have our main headquarters in Belgium. And at the moment we have over 170 members. I will show more later on, with a good and well-balanced composition, I would say, in between large industries and SMEs, and also research and user organizations. Our objectives are shared with the objectives of the BPP, so we share a common mission and objectives as a whole, and definitely we are open to new members that help us to enrich the whole value ecosystem. And we are, as mentioned before, this private counterpart of the BPP. So we have, as a legal entity, we have a contract signed with the European Commission. Then our main deliverable is the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. I think it's a very comprehensive document that is created with the contributions of the whole community and also external communities, and define the overall goals, the technical and non-technical priorities, and also a roadmap. Defines also the vision that has been explained before, and a roadmap to achieve that vision, and we define also the instruments that we think will help for the implementation of this vision. We have delivered already 3 versions. The last one was delivered last January. We are already working in a new version that it will be delivered in parallel to the Work Program 2018-2020, and you can find it on our website. And for those ones that are new to this community, I recommend you to really read this our Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. And just giving a bit more details, in this area we also defined implementation mechanisms that are afterwards mapped in the work program, and I advanced this a bit before, but just to be more specific, we propose 4 implementation mechanisms, so the innovation spaces or I spaces that are these cross-organization, cross-sector and experimentation spaces. In the last 2 calls, this has been mapped with the ICT 14. Then the lighthouse projects that are our large-scale demonstrators, mapped in the Work Program 16-17 with the ICT 15. The technical priorities that also are mapped in the Work Program, and CSAs. Then in terms of members, very quickly, we are present almost in all the European Union projects. There are 3 projects where still we don't have presence, and we are working on it. We also have presence from associate member states and candidates to the European Union. So those are the conditions to join as a member, besides being contributor to the data value chain. Then in terms of number of members and composition, you can see since the association was created that it was at the very end of 2014. We've been growing in the number of members. Up to now we have 175 plus. And then as industry driven, we have this majority of industry represented by large SMEs and industrial associations mainly, and then a strong contribution from research and academia. This is just some of the logos of some of our members, but not all, but you can see some of the companies and institutions behind. And then we also believe in this power of collaborations. It's not only that we believe on that, big data technologies, big data is an enabling technology at the moment, is everywhere, and collaboration with many other associations and many other organizations, and also strategic initiatives like digitizing European industry are key for our success. And then this is my last slide before I hand it to my colleague Arne. So how we are organized. So we are organized in many different task forces. So our members, they collaborate together around many different topics. We call this type of working groups task forces, and they are very officially created and have they are integrated in the governance of the association with clear mandates. They mapped our strategic and research agenda chapters, and besides the ones that are more related to program impact, community and communications that are more horizontal, then we also have a policy and societal technical, that this will be more elaborated by our application domains. So we work in many different sectors, business, skills and education. And here I will pass the control to Arne, who is going to actually continue with the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, I have the control already now, I think. So let me now show the full screen here. So my name is Arne Berre, and I'm coordinating the technical task force number 6, which also contains 6 subgroups, which you see on the column to the left here, on data management, data processing, data analytics, data protection, and data visualization and standardization. So I will now talk about these technical activities, which are the technical priorities that is also reflected in the strategic research and innovation agenda that Anna referred you to, and is also reflected into the work program as topics that are subject of the various calls. So this is the core technology elements that are combined in various ways in the projects in order to both do research and do innovation. I will present these areas in the context of the big data value reference model, which you see here. Here we have placed the different areas in a kind of logical structure, relating it also to big data platform architectures. So if you start on the bottom here, we see the infrastructure layer, where there's a lot of say bordering activities from technologies such as cloud technologies, communication, high performance computing, IoT, which we have not detailed here because this is outside of the big data PPP. But it's of course the core infrastructure that we are relating to and which is providing the data as input. Our focus, the start and when we get access to the data, focusing on data management, collection and handling of it, and also the storage of it. Further into data processing and the processing architectures that can be both in batch form, such as Hadoop, interactive like in main memory databases for user interaction. And of course these days also with a focus on real-time streaming of sensor data that is being processed, and this is together dealing, say, with the velocity and the volume of big data. Before we go up to actually making value out of this with data analytics, descriptive, diagnostic, predictive and prescriptive analytics, which is where all of the techniques dealing with data science and machine learning and deep learning takes place. in order to provide value out of the data, also dealing with the VO veracity, and further into the visual analytics and data visualization and user interaction. So orthogonal to this, we have data protection as an important area now, in particular with the regulations of the GDPR for data privacy coming into effect next year, and this goes across the stack. Also dealing with the standards that we are using in all of the areas. And then we have a cross area also to other activities such as the cybersecurity area, which is important here. Also dealing with engineering and development and operations, where we have organizations such as NESI having a focus, but also important in the context of the various big data value technologies. And of course, on top, we have all of the different sectors and domains where the applications are being made, taking advantage of all of these various big data technologies in order to make final solutions. So this is also where we have reflections of special interest groups working in all of these areas, as well as providing this as input into our strategic research and innovation agenda, where we will see what the challenges are and the results that we will be looking for are. So what I'll present next now is a short description of this in the different areas. I'll just briefly show also that we are working on more detailed architectures of this, populating all of these areas with more details, looking at different big data types across. So this is a working setting where various activities is going on as part of the activities in BDVA. But for today, we'll basically stay on the high level. As you see up to the right, I will now go through what we are focusing on, both in our activities in BDVA groups and as input for the strategic research agenda, elements that are being updated into the work program, as we are following up what is progressing in the projects and what will be remaining challenges and what outcome we have received. So we can start from the bottom of the architecture. Data management is dealing with the handling of the data into the system. We still see remaining challenges on the semantics aspect, semantic interoperability, dealing with quality and the life cycle and data governance, various aspects of integration, providing data as a service, and also the integration with distributed trust infrastructures, with the objective of getting results that can help us to achieve higher data quality, serving the data as a service paradigm, good foundation for analytics, support of interoperability with semantics, and different kind of data types. So in particular, as you saw on the last slide, not only the structured data, but also, of course, now unstructured and semi-structured data, such as real-time sensor data from Internet of Things, unstructured data in media, and so forth. So these are the topics you will find if you read the SRIA document that Anna referred you to, where we go in much more details on all of these challenges and outcomes that will be a basic input for challenges in the work program, and also be updated as new results arises coming out of the project. So as we go up the stack, we get next to the processing architectures, which I mentioned before as batch and real-time and interactive main memory aspects. Challenges there are heterogeneity and scalability, how to deal with the data in motion combined with the data at rest, decentralized architecture with good performance. Also here, important integration with high-performance computing to support the integration of processing and data. So we can get good techniques for real-time processing of heterogeneous sources in a scalable way, handling the real-time aspects in an efficient perspective for both storage and processing. So this provides then the foundation for the data analytics, which is where we start to look into both statistical machine learning and machine learning based on deep learning and neural networks, integrating this with the challenges of keeping the semantics and the knowledge with good content, doing various kind of analytics frameworks integrated with the processing, so that we can do advanced both business and industrial analytics here. That means descriptive and diagnostic analytics, as well as predictive and prescriptive analytics. And of course, this is the whole focus now of machine learning and AI becoming popular again. because all of the big data gives us opportunities for learning with different kind of machine learning techniques, and in particular also now deep learning with neural networks. This will help us to improve models and simulations and semantic analysis, dealing with event and pattern discovery in all of the different data types I mentioned to you, also doing deep learning for business intelligence. So the core part here goes into data visualization and visual analytics. So how do we present this in different ways for user interaction and collaboration? There are many ways to do this, and we have of course now virtual reality possibilities moving in 3D, 4D spaces. So there are many opportunities in the visualization of the analytics results and of the data itself, with different new paradigms for doing visual data exploration, personalized end user data perspectives, and also domain-specific data visualization approaches. So that's the logical stack. Of course, in practice, they are mixed in different ways. And then, as an important area where we already have started 4 projects because of the importance of data protection for data privacy, we look into challenges of how we can do this in a generic way, handling robust data privacy, risk-based approaches for privacy, and hopefully creating a complete data protection framework with efficient algorithms for doing anonymization and protection in these different perspectives when we combine data from different sources. And to get it on this, we are very concerned with making sure that the standards are evolving. So the standards are not called for explicitly as the classical research innovation calls, but we have a large activity looking into collaborations with different standardization organizations that we can have impact to, and based on all of the areas of the reference model, working with other groups on harmonization of models and architectures, working with the industry and the technology providers, and working cross-sector so that we can harmonize standards across all of the relevant initiatives and activities also in related domains. So this is the framework, and based on that we are starting projects already now. A set of projects started in January. There was a call now just a few days ago that will result in new projects. I will not go through the projects in detail. That can be a reference for those who have an interest. And they are all addressing various parts of the technology aspects here and also have interesting application areas. We have projects that goes cross-sector, looking at value exchanges with combining data from many different sources in the first group here. We have 2 new lighthouses which are looking into the data-driven bioeconomy and transport. And there are also various supporting projects, and as well as these privacy-preserving projects that I mentioned. So this is the projects, and that's a good reference for those who would go in to see what's happening. As Anna mentioned, we are doing this in collaboration with many initiatives, and the point today is look down to the right here on the collaboration also with the BigDataEurope project. So that's what we will go into now and see how the BigDataEurope project relates to this.
Thank you very much indeed, Arne. Thank you, Anna, beforehand. I've written down several questions based on what you've both just been saying, but it's much more interesting if other people ask questions. So again, do please feel free to add questions to the box you can see on the, I imagine, the right-hand side of your screen. Write this in at any time. Write them down while you remember, otherwise you'll forget for later. Okay, so we've heard a lot about the BDVA and in particular the Task Force 6 within that. So let's now turn to hear more about the BigDataEurope project and what that is about. And the person who's going to tell us about that, first of all, is Simon Scerri from Fraunhofer. Simon, can you...
Hi. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'll just say a few words as my role as Deputy Coordinator for the project. I'm aware that a lot of people are familiar with the project, so I'll just give a refresh of the main concepts and also where we stand now. So the coordination support action is nearing its end. We're getting closer to the last 6 months of the project. And in short, the coordination support actions is to show the societal value of big data across the 7 societal challenges. So we had a lot of stakeholders, we collected requirements, and then we started working on the 7 pilots based on the technology we created, and the technical aspect is more covered by the support aspect. So to lower the barrier for the use of big data technology, of which a lot of them exist today. There's many components doing a lot of things, but using them together is a bit challenging and requires higher skills. So the idea and the need for this project was to make it easier to combine existing technology to address different use cases, which we demonstrate through the pilots. The consortium is roughly evenly split between partners with a technical expertise and also partners with societal community links. So we have OpenPact, Food and Association, and CESDA. So these target the societal challenges, and the other partners are more offering technical expertise. And the main idea here is that in all these societal challenges, they have different data, different objectives. Different, yes, and the solution which turns the data into their objectives are frequently very similar, but they're logged down to their own needs. And the vision is to go from this to decompose them into reusable components along the data processing chain, so that they can be easier and reused for different use cases as well. So that's a bit the overview, and we achieved this in the BigData project by creating this integrator platform, the architecture for which looks a bit like this. My colleague Hajira will in a few minutes give you more details about this, but basically the main points here are Dockerization. So this facilitates the bringing together the integration of existing big data components, not that we created, we did not recreate them. So we just facilitate how to get them to work together to address various needs, yeah. And it's plug and play, because all other components which we do not currently support can also be Dockerized and integrated and supported that way. And the key BigDataEurope additions are the support layer, so an integrated user interface to facilitate the combination, the monitoring of workflows between different components, and gives a bit of a similar look and feel, as you will see in Hajira's presentation, and also some modification layer to improve the variety challenge. Also Phil at the end will tell you more about the final release, about the platform, which is actually very close. The pilots, as I said, they're instances of the big data platform that demonstrate how the platform can be useful for different real-world use cases. So again, here there are 7 different instantiations. They have the benefits that the platform has: Dockerization, modularization, more user-friendliness, and easier to deploy, and so on. And the point what I said before, they have different data, different needs for solutions, objectives, but the solution internally can be similar. And this is what we show in the project. There's more information in the pilot tab on our website, but to give you a preview of that, these are the 7 architecture instances, how they actually look based on the main platform architecture. So also, just a few seconds more, I'll tell you about the BigData activities. Apart from webinars like this one today, we also have Hangouts, which are more specific to a societal challenge, and we also have the workshops. These are the workshops planned for this year, so follow us, and there's more information about the events tab on our website. And webinars such as the one today are also recorded, so they can be rewatched or shared later. And that said, I would like to hand over directly to Hajira to give you more details about the platform architecture itself.
Thanks, Simon, and hello everyone. I'm Hajira from University of Bonn, and we have been working on big data platform development for BigData in Europe project together with other partners, and I was one of the work package leads for this platform development. So this platform is being developed by keeping in view some of the very key goals. We wanted this platform to be open source, free to use. At the same time, we want this platform to be easy to use. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible to get started with big data tools and technologies and the frameworks that are being developed at a very fast pace. At the same time, as Simon has already explained, there are a variety of use cases proposed by the 7 societal challenges, and we wanted to support all of these use cases. At the same time, big data technologies are changing very fastly. New technologies are emerging at a very fast pace, so we wanted to embrace them as they come into the picture, and we wanted the integration of custom components as easy and as faster as possible. So you might have seen this big data landscape picture before. This is just to give an overview of how many different components do we have in the big data platforms, and of course all of them fit into one particular case that is of importance for different enterprises. So it's not really straightforward or easy to support, to be able to support most, if not all of them. So what we decided to work with was Dockers and Docker Swarms. I would explain this overview of architecture from top down. So we use Dockers as the wrapping component. So Dockers is a lightweight visualization tool which allows you to wrap component or an application and all its dependencies in a one software container, which makes sure that this application runs as intended regardless of the underlying platform or host environment. So once we wrap each application into the Docker component, Docker Compose is what allows you to create or allows you to be able to run multiple Docker containers simultaneously. So you essentially have one Docker Compose file that contains different Docker container names and related instructions, and with one instruction, Docker Compose up, you can create a whole working pipeline of the data value chain. Docker Swarm is an orchestration which allows you to create clusters of different Docker components, and it acts as a resource manager. So this is what allows us to create a modular structured platform which allows us to also have a component's flexibility of having plug-and-play like features. However, there were some limitations that we saw later. There are some gaps in these components, so I would tell them one by one. One was that we were not able to create workflow of different applications. It could be in real life that one application depends on another, and we don't want to deploy, or we don't want to run all applications at once. For example, if an application wants to read some data, we want to make sure that that data is available before the application tries to read that data. So this feature was not present in Docker Compose. Similarly, most of the big data tools and frameworks, they have their own web user interfaces, which are available at different web URIs, and of course they would have different look and feel because they are developed by different vendors. So we created an integrator user interface that allows you to combine the different user interfaces within one pipeline to be shown as one meta interface, and you can browse through individual interfaces using different tabs provided in the integrator UI. So, so this all additional features are bundled inside a support layer that allows you to, and that facilitates you to create the pipeline, to deploy that pipeline, to visualize that pipeline in an integrator user interface, and to create workflow of individual pipeline, or you could call it working stack as well. So another key feature of the support layer is that this support layer itself is a Dockerized component. So if you are not interested in creating such a pipelines, or if there are no dependencies among those pipelines, you can simply opt out of not using this support layer, and the platform and its architecture would still work. This is an alternative view of the same architecture or same platform. Here you could see that resource manager is Swarm, and then you could separate out the application layers into data layer and platform layer, where you have data storage applications like Cassandra or Hive or RDF Store in the data layer, and then in platform layer you have applications like Spark, Flink, or some other applications that we have developed within this project that I will explain later. And then support layer is what helps you or supports you to create these intermediate layers easily, and it also supports you to create an application layer, which is essentially the algorithms and analytics that you as a user write yourself to work on for Spark or Flink to work with the data presented in the data layer. BigData in Europe supports a variety of different frameworks serving different purposes. For example, we have Apache Solr for indexing, Plume for data acquisition, and others for message passing, data storage, or processing. For processing, we have Spark and Flink or some other semantic component. So some of the platform features are that platform for development environment, we have provided a stack builder that allows you to create, to combine different components from big data provided by BigData in Europe at the BigData GitHub. So you can select which of those you want to create your own pipeline. Then we have a workflow builder that allows you to create the workflow from that pipeline. We also have provided comprehensive instructions on how to add different components or how to add your own components to the BigData in Europe stack. Then there is an administrator interface that allows you to look at individual components running within the pipeline, and you're able to scale them up or scale down according to your need or running application. Then we have user interface integrator. There we have workflow monitor that allows you to monitor the status of the applications. For example, the dependent application has finished its working or not. And then at the end we have an integrator web interface that combines the existing interfaces. So we have also provided manual instruction guides, installation guides, also in the form of screencasts that users can easily follow to install the base platform. Deploying a big data stack or a working pipeline for a data value chain is very easy. Where the stack is a collection of different communicating components that you want to use to solve a specific problem. And this stack is essentially described in a Docker Compose file. It has to have some component configurations, and it also contains application topology to be able to create the workflow. To enhance the component, it means that you need to tell something to each component that either they are dependent on each other, and this requires manual intervention somehow. For this, we have created an init daemon that allows you to integrate different interdependent components with each other and to make them able to wait for each other. And also we've provided user interface integration. So the target of creating different user interfaces is to be able to get started with these big data tools and frameworks. So the available interfaces for BigData in Europe platform are workflow user interfaces, that is workflow builder and monitor, and then Swarm user interface and integrator user interface. So I'll go through each of them rather quickly. So this is workflow builder, which allows you to select the different components first, and once you have selected them, you can drag and drop them up or bottom to create a workflow. And then in Workflow Monitor, it shows the status of each individual component. For example, here you can see that HDFS setup is completed. Now Spark setup is also completed, and populating HDFS is in progress at the moment. This is a snapshot of Swarm UI, here you can see that these are the different components running on the platform at the moment within a pipeline. And if you want to scale this up or increase the number of instances, you can do that, or decrease them as per need of the platform at a particular instance of time. And this is the integrator user interface. Here you could see that there are multiple different tabs. Here you could monitor them, you can visualize them. These are interfaces for component 1, and the others are interfaces for component 2, and you can so you can navigate through different components under a simple one integrator interface. So apart from this development work, we realized that the key feature or the key requirement for most of the societal challenges was the heterogeneity of the data. With that, we came up with the idea of smart big data, where we want to increase the value of big data by adding meaning to it. So one of the research idea in this direction is the semantic data lake, which we call Integrator. So what happens in real life is that we have different types of data which is being gathered at one place, and this data could be structured, semi-structured, unstructured, all different types, and this data itself, it's schemaless. So the main idea of data lake is that we add a semantic layer on top of the source data sets. That is, the data is semantically lifted using an existing schema, and this makes it also able to query that heterogeneous data in a unified manner. And the other idea is scalable semantic analytics stacks. Traditional machine learning algorithms work on a particular input types, and you have to have several pre-processing steps in order to make data feasible with the running algorithm. On the other hand, semantic web and RDF provides a modeling framework, a standardized modeling framework, but this RDF and RDF data is mostly used for fact-checking and fact validation, or simply querying the factual data. So the main idea of semantic analytics stacks is that to borrow the distributed analytics from the existing machine learning libraries, and to borrow the modeling framework from RDF, and combine the best of both worlds by creating a machine learning library for RDF data. So it essentially has 3 layers. One is the knowledge distribution and representation layer. Of course, distributing RDF or graph data is not easy. It needs to have some special features which are different from distribution of database, traditional database or tabular data. Then on top of this layer, we have a querying layer that allows you to query the factual information, then inference layer for knowledge-based completion and enhancement, and on top we have machine learning layer, where we are having multiple algorithms like classification, link prediction, clustering, anomaly detection, and so on. So this was it on what we have been doing on BigDataEurope platform so far, and thank you very much. Now I hand over to Simon to explain the synergies between the 2 projects.
And as you hand over, Simon, I'll remind you we have 6 minutes.
Thank you. Very quickly, I'll keep it short because of the time constraints, but I wanted to summarize, because we talked about the common vision in the title of the webinar, and essentially I think the common vision was already established by the Big Data PPP, which you heard about already, because there were the terms for the project as well, BigDataEurope, and we both target technical priorities, in particular for the strategic research and innovation agenda. Specifically in BigDataEurope, our technical contributions, which you have just heard about, the architecture and the platform, targeting those priorities, and also the entire Task Force 6 technical priorities, the same title, BDVA. So there's a common objective there. And why is it beneficial for BigDataEurope and Big Data Value Association to work together? So for BigDataEurope, since we're nearing the end of the project, the sustainability aspects, we have an opportunity to continue efforts in the BigData project within a longer initiative, which is the association, and also standardization. So our platform, for example, or some components from them, the BDVA can be a vessel for standardization of the results of the project. And from the other side, from BDVA, I think the benefit is that BigDataEurope is one of several projects which advance the technical priorities. And also, since we both align to the 7 societal challenges, and we have also, for example, activities with the communities extracted in elicitation of big data requirements to shape our architecture, which is also very much of value for the BDVA. And to go back to the technical aspects, after you have seen the reference model from our BDVA and also the architecture for the BigDataEurope platform, there are some parallels here. You see some links. So the 4 horizontal layers in BDVA, they can be linked, or actually they are around the applications in the BigData platform, can be linked to one of these 4 layers. The semantic big data layer is one way how to do the data management and so on. And to go down to another level of detail, very short, so Hajira has presented this picture of the BigData platform, and if we decompose this down as follows to individual components, it's quite easy to map it, as you can see, to the reference model. So you have the 4 layers there: visualization, analytics, present architectures, and management, and you can see how the aspects and components of the platform can fit in there. And also on the other side you have the support layer and the user interfaces. This goes into the engineering and DevOps vertical layer of BDVA. So Phil, that was all I wanted to say, just to put a bit more the talk that we had into pictures, and I hand over now to you.
Thank you, Simon. So I didn't mean to rush you at the end there. I just thought I'd just point it out. So we had a slot now on the agenda. We're going to invite Anna and Arne to comment on BDE and invite Kimmo to comment on everything you've heard. A few questions lined up, but I think I'm keen really to hear. Let's start with Kimmo. On any comments from you as project officer on what you heard about the 2 operations here today.
Yes, thank you. It has been interesting to hear the things that I've heard many times before, but in a different context and different angle, namely hearing it from 2 different communities. So the project BigDataEurope and the BDVA, and to be able to recognize commonalities, common goals, and that's, I think, has been useful here to prepare ground for further collaboration between BigDataEurope and the partnership in general. And I would go even further, BigDataEurope and the data economy, the emerging data economy in general, how it will serve. The project will come to an end after the end of this year, but I hope it will leave a good heritage. Now this webinar was mainly intended to promote the collaboration of these 2, BigDataEurope and the partnership, BDVA. But faithful to its traditions of BigDataEurope, this event is public and open. So I hope that those attendees who are not involved in any of the 2 were still able to follow and were not too confused. And if you were, please ask questions to clarify.
Yes, thank you, Kimmo. The question box is open. I've got several from Ray, which I will come to. But Anna and Arne, I'd like to turn to you just for some final comments from you. And I guess I'm particularly interested to know from your perspective as a BDVA whether, and you don't have to be polite here, you don't have to be polite at all, but is BigDataEurope the kind of approach that you like to see? Are you seeing other approaches? Are there good things, are there bad things, or whatever?
I can, from a technical point of view, I think Simon showed a nice mapping between the BDVA reference model and the various components of the BDE platform architecture, showing that they fit well together. Obviously there are some reusable components of various kinds here. We see also some of the open source like Cassandra and others we have on the data layer, but there are also unique additions. And what we hope to use this reference model for is to collect various contributions from different projects, different activities, so we can see them all together contributing to a common complete picture. Obviously there is a need also to make sure that the components work together, and they do not that automatically. So this is also an achievement in the BDE, working on a platform, making sure that their selected components work together, which of course is necessary in order to use those for creating the applications on top. So we think this is a good contributions and of the kind that we would like to see more of. But also in itself it is a platform, because you saw the Docker image architecture, which basically shows that a lot of different components can run on top of the BDE platform. So that's an additional element in this platform, that it can actually host other individual contributions from other projects. That I mean, not everyone need to make a complete platform. So it's also an interesting hosting platform for project and components contributions in these areas coming from various sources.
Thank you. Anna?
Yes, very quickly. So yes, we welcome any project that help us to implement our strategic and research and innovation agenda. So as Arne was saying, definitely BigDataEurope seems to be a very good contributor. So we believe we can join forces together. Also, BigDataEurope has been contributed to our subgroup in standardization and interoperability, and the lead of that group is actually one of the attendees, Ray Wells. So that's already, we have demonstrated already possibilities of collaboration. In addition to this, BigDataEurope can help us to extend our ecosystem because of the work done with all the different communities, and definitely contribute to some of our application domains, application areas, as we have a lot of commonalities there as well. So I'm sure we will be able to receive a lot of value from that perspective also. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna. I'm going to quickly run through a couple of the questions. A question for you, actually, Anna, from Emmanuel Mondon. He says, what are the cross-cutting functions? Is TF7-SG5, Earth Observation and Geospatial, one of them? On the data management side, legal issues not mentioned. So we haven't mentioned legal stuff here. I have a point on that, which I'll come back to after you've spoken, Dana. Is that a challenge?
So
let me address the first point here on the cross-cutting function. Well, we don't call it a cross-cutting function, but this is where you see we have this discussion of the different areas of the so-called big data types. So of course a lot of historical work has been done on structured data. That's where all of the existing benchmarks and focuses are. Also in Europe we are very strong on graphic or graph structures and linked data, and we have that as a particular data type area. But others like time series and also spatial/geospatial, as well as image are among the other types, and text and others. Back to this slide. Obviously for the question of Earth observation and geospatial, it's interesting because it's spatial, looking at the feature models in particular for vector representation of geospatial data, while Earth observation, also being spatial, has typical image raster images. So it's a combination of image data types being applied in the geospatial domain, and this is one of the intention of us selecting this. The Task Force 7 on Earth observation is obviously a strong contributor now to our analysis of end-to-end vertical solutions, going from applications down to visualization, analytics, processing and storage for the geospatial domain, including also Earth observation. So it's exactly one of the intentions why we are doing this segmentation into the data types for the analytics now, and for the analysis of what we're doing, because we have 20, 30, 40 sectors We don't need to analyze each of them individually. We have only 6 different main data types, and the different sectors make different combinations of those, such as Earth observation combining image and spatial data types.
Thank you. Anna, I think you were going to say something as well. Were you or not?
No, it was just, don't worry. No, I was not going to say anything.
Well, then I'm going to jump in briefly and answer one of the points that you made, Emmanuel. You were talking there about licensing and so on. I haven't mentioned, it hasn't been mentioned in today's work, but the BigDataEurope project has in fact been supporting some work here at W3C on a vocabulary for machine readable licensing called ODRL. That's now close to being finished, so that particular aspect is being pushed forward by this project. The BDE project is also being carried on in one of the ones that Arne mentioned, the special project as well. So we are having quite a lot of work done in that space. Ray, you've asked lots of questions. It would be wrong of me not to highlight some of what you've been saying, so let me do that. You ask who you should come to get input from both BDVA and BDE. So use cases for ISO JCC 1 working group 9. So I can tell you that from a BDE perspective, the person I told you about is Ronald Siebers. He's sort of overall charge of all the pilots that we have, which is probably the best place to get use cases from. And who to get use cases in for that ISO working group from BDVA, I guess Arne would probably be the person to talk to there. Arne, would you agree?
I can.
Sorry, Anna,
Yes.
you want to say something? Arne's spoken a lot.
I think either of us can say. I think both from the projects that just started, we have this technical committee that will kick off in a couple of weeks, and the contact for that one is Andreas Metzger, and I can send you his contact details. And then for BDVA and for the application domains, the task force 7 leader, Milan Petkovic from Philips, can actually be a good contact point to organize activities with the different application domains in task force 7.
Okay, thank you. Ray, your other points were about the reference model that I think we've kind of covered, especially with, as you rightly say, Simon's exceptional graphic, which you haven't seen before, but I have an idea we're going to see a lot of times again in the future. So I think we're okay on that one. Mohammed asks, this is kind of music to Kimmo's ears. Mohammed says the majority of mainstream big data technologies are mainly American, even though a lot of those technologies are open source, to which many of the contributors are European developers. But what are some of the European Commission and BDVA plans to empower the EU competitiveness in terms of in-house technology creation? Kimmo.
I don't understand your question. Are you asking how do we intend to keep the best developers in Europe, or what?
How can Europe compete when everybody sees all this technology as being American? And so many of the well-known frameworks have American stamps on them. And what can we do?
I honestly think it's a vicious circle, and it can be a virtuous circle as well if things start to go well with both research and industry. So this is the leadership I was talking about as being one of the main targets. So achieving a European leadership, everything would follow from that. And you don't create leadership very easily. It's true. It's easy to say, but hard to do. But once you reach leadership in, let's say, one section, one niche, that attracts best people, best companies, best brains from everywhere. And maybe that niche approach is good to start with, and then the societal challenges can be very useful because they are very good niches. Energy, for example, big data in energy grids, or in decision-making support. So maybe this could be where the excellence would start to grow. That's why we want to work on concrete projects, and also the BigDataEurope is helping to concretize the technology by putting it to work in different areas of applications that are very diverse, but they all have one thing in common: they have huge impact if things go well.
Thank you. Anna, I always think of BDVA as a European organization. Do you have any members from outside Europe?
No. No and yes. We have our members are mainly from the European Union member states, but we also have participants from associate countries and candidates to the European Union. So in particular, as part of these associates, and when I say associates, is to the research and innovation programs. We have, for instance, Israel as providing some companies, but I could say that it's 95%, 95 to 99% European based.
So maybe a future mission is to for the BDVA is to spread European expertise outside the continent. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's
definitely, and that's in our agenda for the future, to start creating international collaboration, mainly to give SMEs who normally have more problems to outreach international markets, to have access to those markets. So that's part of the plan.
Thank you. Right, we're out of time. In fact, we're well over time, so I'm going to wrap up now. Just quickly, Ray, yes, ODRL certainly is interesting for the GDPR, and the special project is very much looking at that. All right, as you can see on your screen, I need to draw your attention to the fact that we're 5 hours, 22 hours and 45 minutes away from another one of these webinars, when Hajira and other colleagues from BigData Europe will be officially launching the BigData Europe platform. We have another webinar which will be planned to be an hour and a half, not just ending up being an hour and a half, where we'll go through a lot more of the detail of what's in that. So if you want to know more detail about what the BigData Europe platform, the BigData Europe integrated platform, I should call it, has to offer, then that is the time, same time as we began today, on Wednesday the 3rd of May. So that's that, and there's lots of information, of course, around the platform itself, the pilots we've been running, and if you like quick bits of video, here are various short video clip answers to some various questions. You can see Hajira there answering various questions there, including about the semantics, some of the use cases, and so on. But the main thing to draw attention to is that launch next Wednesday afternoon. So I think that's all we have time for. Simon, do you want to say any more things before we wrap up, or is that it?
No, I think that's covered everything very well, Phil. Thank you very much.
Then I will thank Anna and Arne and Kimmo very much for being with us, and thanks everyone for attending today. The recording of this will be available on our website just as soon as we can make it happen. And again, thank you all very much indeed for coming.